Item of business is to elect a chairperson and vice chairperson for the 2024-2026 term of this committee. So I will accept any nominations for chair.
I would nominate Alder Larson for chair.
Alder Larson, do you accept?
Yes, I do.
All right. Are there any other nominations? I will ask one more time. Are there any other nominations? All right. And then I will accept a motion to close nominations and cast a unanimous ballot for Alder Larson.
So moved.
And seconded by Watson. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Alder Larson, I will let you take over.
Okay. Okay. Let me get my thing back up here. Could I have a motion for a vice chair? Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I'll nominate Sarah Watson as vice chair.
Alder Watson, do you accept? Any other nominations? Then if there's only one nomination, then the chair asks for a motion to close the nominations.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Alder Neal and seconded by Alder Rasmussen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And with that, we'll go on to establish a regular meeting time and date. Is this good for everybody? 4:30?
It's either the first Monday of the month then?
Yeah.
Yep, typically the first
Sure.
Monday of the month at 4:30 is what we have
Sure.
had it.
So the first Monday of the month is fine for me. I ordinarily work until 5 though. So,
So you
I
want to
mean,
push it to 5?
can we push it to 5:15? That's when most of our other committees are starting,
That's fine.
rather than
I'm-
earlier?
I'm okay with it,
That would-
If
sure.
that works? Okay.
Okay.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, then the established meeting would be, for this committee, would be first Monday of every month at 5:15.
I will have Jody in my office send out notices or calendar to get on your calendars for that time.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, item number 3, approval of the minutes of the March 4th, 2024 meeting. I have a motion by Alder Watson,
Second.
second by Alder Neal. Is there anybody, I should have asked if anybody wants any changes or anything to them. But, okay, the motion is made by Alder Watson and a second by Alder Neal to approve the minutes of the March 4th, 2024 meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And none opposed? That passes unanimously. A discussion and possible action on a trail overlook on the Pick and Save section River Edge Trail. I saw that in the packet. That looks pretty bad.
It does. It's been, it came to our attention from the Pick and Save group, or the owner of the Pick and Save property. But we had noticed it already a while ago with the cracking of the wall. And so I do have pictures in the packet where you can see it if you go out there. You can just, the worst part is this cracking right here in the picture I have on the screen. And what we found out is that when this was built in 2000, I think I had it in the packet, early 2000s, I believe it was built, and 2002. We found that there was not the correct amount of ore. It has all come out, the amount of fill behind that wall to stabilize that wall. So it's been eroding out, and therefore putting pressure on that wall, which is what caused it to fail underneath and then it crack up top. And as you can see around the manhole where the drainage is sinking, So we did take a lot of pictures. We do need to, right now we have it, closed, the overlook part. We have barricades there, so the trail is still open. This doesn't affect the trail at all, but it does affect the overlook. And this isn't something we had budgeted. It's something that's failed over time, and it's a pretty large overlook. We don't have any benches there. We just have the seat wall, and it's more of like a stop and rest area. There's a close-up look of the wall, so you can kind of see how that's completely separated. So we did go out and get preliminary, because this isn't budgeted, we got preliminary cost estimates from 2 local engineering firms for what it would take for for them to do the study on how to fix this, if we want to fix it. So we have 2 options. One is we could do the study and see what that costs to fix it. And then either way, we would need to fund the study and then decide if we want to fund to fix it. Or we could, in-house most likely, take out the overlook, it's a bunch of pavers, wall, and then restore that slope and just have the trail. The trail, like I said, isn't affected. We would just maintain the trail, but we could remove the overlook from that area for a pretty minimal cost, because like I said, it can be done in-house. And looks like our attorney has some more information.
Yes.
Not until you're finished.
Go
Are you
ahead. No,
finished,
you
Jamie?
can go ahead.
Time is a bit of the essence. I just want to point that out to everybody. We got a notice from an attorney back in January, a formal notice that we are in violation of our easement for not maintaining and repairing the overlook. And so we were given until, the notice was dated January 16th. We received it on the 22nd, so we had until February 22nd to repair it. Or at least commence the repair, or they still reserve the right to repair it themselves and bill us for it. And we don't want them to do that. So every month I communicate with this attorney and say, we haven't forgotten you, it's just the wheels grind kind of slowly. And he's like, oh, no problem, just stay in touch with me. But they don't want it left there now and going into better weather with, cross horse beams.
It took a little bit of time. And then with the changeover of the committees and the timing of the meetings, that also has a little bit of a delay. But we've been working on it.
Yep.
And we're at this point, so.
Thank you.
Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. I guess just a couple questions. So we believe that this is caused by subpar fill or subpar compaction? What?
Subpar fill underneath the overlook, yep.
'Kay.
Behind the wall.
And so I only ask that because there's been other issues with the Pick and Save property in general where they had to dig and dig and dig. Came to find out that site that's on, to get stable footings to put even the store and the parking lot on, there are dozens and dozens of feet of sawdust underneath there that they had to go through to get to, real bedrock to put a building on.
Yep.
I don't know if that issue is pervasive along the riverfront as well, if that is part of this, or is it not?
From what we understand between our staff looking at it and the city's engineering staff, it does appear that it just wasn't secured with enough fill correctly when it was built.
Okay.
It doesn't, I didn't get that information from them, that they felt that was the cause.
So my next question then, I guess, is it possible to do a temporary fix on this to make it safe for users so that it's not a hazard? And then go through CIP for a larger project that would rebuild this thing properly? And let them rank that in finance for the 25 budget.
In looking at it, there isn't, because we can't just fill that crack and stabilize it. It's sinking from the top down through the middle. So really, we need to take out the whole paver area and at least fill that in and then shore it up. That's essentially rebuilding it. But because of the pressure put on this wall that I understand, and I'm not the engineer, but from what I understand, the pressure put on this wall, it's just going to continue to give way unless we reconstruct it properly.
I struggled to take amenities away, though. If we had a real cost for what it was going to be, it would be an easier decision to make.
Yeah.
Yep, so we don't have a cost for the fix, because we need to figure out what that fix is. But we do have estimates from, and I put it in we have estimates from one company of $28,000 for the study, and then the other company was anywhere between $35,000 and $35,000 and $40,000, depending on how deep we wanted them to go with their engineers. So that's 2 different firms. So essentially, we have a price range for that study between $28,000 and $40,000. the lowest is 28, that's one firm, and the other firm is bigger. So we have an estimate, we would go out for actual RFP to make sure that both of these have, because right now we went and took them there, we showed them the issues, we showed them the plans. So this is a rough cost estimate that I could bring to you as an idea of what this would cost. We would get this finalized of what that study would be, and then that's what we would have to come back and have a budget amendment or a request from the city finance committee, because like I said, we don't have this budgeted for, and it's a pretty significant cost. We could take it out of our small project fund, but those are typically anything under 30,000 is what we have, and then that would delay something else we had on our plan. But this is the range right now of just the study to figure out and design. It would include the design for construction of how to fix it properly. And if we want to go ahead with that and get that completed, then that would be a choice that the committee could make a recommendation to the.
Do we know what the usage was before this happened?
We don't have a counter out there. And like I said, we don't have benches there, so it's not a place that we regularly see people gathering.
Okay.
But, yeah, I don't have a good idea.
Alder Neal?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm always a fan of amenity infrastructure, I go to this particular store quite often, and I noticed, some time back, what the heck's going on over there? It's a fairly monumental amenity. Let's not forget that about, 200 feet to the north is another one, like its twin, essentially. I really basically never see anybody utilizing it, as an overlook, having a picnic or anything of that nature. I think I've seen maybe one person sitting on the wall. I would really be probably a fan of removing it, repairing, the trail, space. We could always put in a permanent bench, just a regular old bench. So anybody wants to sit there and look at the river, they can do that. But that would be about as much use of it I've ever seen anyways. So I think that's where I would lean if we were to be making a recommendation going forward.
Definitely an option to make it even smaller or take it out for the meantime and then put something smaller back in. Like, is this the one you're referring to the north on this map? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, isn't it essentially kind of pretty much the same
It's just
structure?
much smaller in size. Like if you look at that one to the north compared to, sorry, the map is
Okay.
slow, compared to this is the one we're talking about.
Yeah.
You can't really see that, I guess, on that TV very well, but this one to the north is just this little area.
Both fulfilling pretty much the same function, if
Yes.
you will.
Sure,
Alder Watson, I'm sorry.
So just a question about the estimate. So I guess how I'm reading that one sentence, it says, design the plans to repair the structure will cost about 28, and the repair would be an additional 35 to 40. So would it be totally potentially 68 to 70,000?
No, so when I wrote this, those were the two quotes that we had, and that's how they read, but I did clarify when I went back, because when I looked at them on Friday when we were putting this together, or on Thursday when I was putting this together, they read this way, how I put it in there, so that's how I interpreted, but actually that 35 to 40,000 was the second quote from the other company of what their cost would be to do the same work as the 28,000. So the way this is worded is incorrectly, because that's how I interpreted, but I clarified that this morning.
Okay. And then another question about the easement, what is our requirements for so we can use that part of the land for a path, the trail, right? And just have to keep it maintained in whatever way. And is there a plan to extend it any farther?
For the trail?
Yeah.
Yes, the planning department is working right now. I think they got some ARPA funding to do the graphic, I always think of James River.
Graphic
but graphic packaging.
Yeah.
So that segment is being worked on right now. It's being designed. So I believe that one will be constructed fairly soon because they are
And
amenable
that'll-
to the easement. And then the Economic Development Department is also working with Mr. Schofield on the MDX property that he has. So there's been different discussions, site walks, things. We just aren't to a part yet of actually getting an easement through that property or a sale of that property, but it's being worked on regularly.
So it'll eventually, hopefully, change anyway in the future.
Yes, hopefully the
That
whole
look.
trail will connect all the way from, like Kickbush Plaza on that side, so from East Bay or the Mandarin all the way up to Schofield Park is the plan on that side of the river.
And the existing, like, little overlook probably would need to be modified anyway, potentially.
Not in that area. That area of the trail is pretty much complete, so we wouldn't have to do anything to change that. But as work is done, so if we did take the overlook out, and if we desired an overlook there again, or a couple of bench pads to put, we always are looking for memorial bench spots, because we have a lot of requests for those. We could put those types of thing in, because we do have the area within the easement that we can utilize.
Okay, thanks.
So Jamie, this picture on page 18 right here of the packet, so that's the trail?
I believe so. The blacktop area, yep.
Yeah,
there's the
so
trail.
that's the trail right there.
That's the trail.
And so, basically what we're looking at is the overlook. I mean, so if we, like as Alder Neal suggested, if we took that out, that trail would still be there.
Yep.
And they would just fill that in and, as you say, put a bench there. I mean, obviously there's a broken sewer there too that, if, could probably be removed or something. I don't know, but the engineer would have to look at it, but I guess that I would, judging by this picture here, I guess I would lean towards what Alder Neal suggested.
So on the aerial on the TV, you can see the blacktop area going through is the trail. It's this whole large area that we're talking about. This is the picture of the pipe in the middle where you can see that's where it's sinking. The paper bricks are sinking down. And the crack in the wall is approximately like right here, if you can see the mouse, kind of halfway around the circle.
Alder Lukens is next, Alder Neal.
Thank you. I had been thinking too, as I had read this over and was thinking about it. I'm not there really often, but anytime that I have been there, I haven't seen anyone using it either. And so that's what I was wondering too, just with the cost of the studies, if there's anything else that could be done that maybe would not be as costly, or doing something else at this time and then, in the future, even I don't know if a short fence or, I don't know if there's anything that would be less costly, but I guess that's what I was wondering too. Rather than doing the study, just because I know that, Parks has other things that, you want to do. And so those are just my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Alder Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got in the back of my mind a proposal for an event. I want to see if we can't, maybe not this committee, but we could create for that part of the river area, what with, river life right across the way and everything. So I'm wondering if, we might not, look at that fairly good expanse there and make it a green space, I guess safety fencing if we need that, if there's a bad drop off or something. And maybe a number of memorial bench, pads. And then if this idea of mine comes to fruition, and even if it doesn't, is a place there where people can sit and kind of gaze out at the river, and it's not going to be a zillion dollars to make it happen. So, are we at a point where anybody might make a motion as to a plan of action, or?
Is that what you're looking for, Jamie?
Yeah, it needs to make a recommendation to the park commission, and we'll take
Okay.
this through them.
Well, I would venture to make a motion that we would look into eliminating the overlook, turning it into a green space, maybe look at the addition of X number of pads for memorial benches, maybe 4, something like that, and be done with it. Probably save a lot of money. Thanks.
Alder Lukens, you're seconding that? So a motion has been made by Alder Neal and seconded by Alder Lukens to remove this overlook and send that recommendation on to the Park Commission. All those, Alder Rasmussen?
Just a quick question. Could that be accomplished within your small projects fund, Jamie?
The removal, yes, I believe so. When I
Okay.
talked to my staff, that's something we can do.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think just, if you're looking at replacing it, you're probably a couple $100,000 for something that's never even used. It's, anyway, motion has been made, Alder Lukens, go ahead, we're still in discussion.
And one question that I would just like to add is, if it's made into a green space, it would be really, really wonderful to see some native pollinator plants and native landscape, which probably wouldn't cost a lot, and once established, wouldn't need watering and things like that. So that would be really wonderful. Thank you.
So a motion has been made, any further discussion, I'm sorry. Motion has been made and seconded to make this overlook into a green space. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None opposed. That motion carries unanimously. And on to item number 5, educational items. A intergovernment agreement process update.
Yeah, so I'll give you all an update. There's no action right now because there's a process that I'm going to go through. But I just wanted to give everybody an update on this since it was something that came about a couple months or a month ago. And I'm sure everybody's wondering maybe where it's at or, when it got canceled last month, where we're doing with this. So I put a little bit of history in this, probably more than I need to for an informational item because I'm going to talk it through. But just to let the committee know, and those of you that have been on the committee, at least this last go around, got all the history 2 years ago. But for Lisa and Tom, who are new back to our committee, I know most of you know the history as well. But just this is going to come forward as we work through the process. But basically, so our department has been a joint director for 100 years, since 1925, or almost 100 years. But it didn't become a joint department under the county until 1974, when under that Wisconsin statute 27075, the city delegated all their authority of the city parks department and parks properties to the county. With that, there's been a number of resolutions. So we've been compiling those, worked with the city attorney's office, our corporation counsel's office, for the last 2-4 years, probably, well, since COVID. It really came up again. So this has been a conversation over the years. I know that my predecessor has had it discussed multiple times throughout his career. Our city attorney can go through a number of times. She has had to do opinions for different elected officials and stuff like that. So we're compiling all of that data. And really what it came to is that when that resolution was signed, the county and the city accepted that everything was transferred to the county. They abolished the city, basically gave all their staff and equipment to the county and agreed to, in those resolutions, to share the costs of those personnel, which now it's not 50-50 in all cases. We have an allocation that's approved. We bring it during our budget cycle to the city. We bring it through our budget cycle to the county. We have some, like our city arborists and foresters, that are 80-20, so they're 80% city, 20% county. We have some that are 50-50. We have our county forester is 100% county, 0 city, obviously, because he's county forester. So within our department, we have everybody allocated out. Some are even 5%, 2%. So we do a pretty good job, and with that, we do job costing through our workday. And we figured out how to do it. It's not as good as it used to be, but we're still working through the process. But anyway, anybody who does work for the county puts it under the county codes. Anybody who works for the city puts it under city codes, and then that is what we actually bill the city each month for that work. So it's actual time worked. When we budget per allocation and what we think we're going to do. And we're pretty close in most cases, but when we actually bill the city only pays for the actual work that we do for the city. And then as part of that, the rolling stock is split 50-50. And that was kind of the things that were stipulated, along with the discussion of the Park Commission was formed when the city abolished their Parks Committee and the county abolished their Park Commission at the time. So that's why their Park Commission currently is made up of 3 city council members, which at this time is Tom, Lou, and Sarah are representing this committee on the Park Commission, and then I have 3 county board members and a member at large who can't be a city council member or a county board member, but it used to be that they couldn't live in the city. That got changed in one of the resolutions, and now they just have to not be one of those 2 elected officials. So our current at-large member does live in the city of Wausau, but he's not one of those elected officials. So that was kind of set up, but what also was part of this agreement in 74 that could have happened, or should have happened, was that there should have been like a agreement for services where it laid out what the city expected of the county to do in the operation of the park system. That was never done. There was an attempt by my predecessor to do it in 1992. For some reason, it didn't go anywhere. It didn't go through either committees, city or county. Up until 2011, there wasn't this committee, and that was reformed, and we'll go through all of that when we have discussions down the line. But what we're doing right now, and the agreement that we're working on, is this actual agreement for services. So, and that kind of came about in 2020, 2021 during COVID, when we were advised by our health department to shut down certain facilities, and then there was questions of what authority I had, or the county staff had, to shut down city parks. So that kind of resurrected this whole discussion on what the county governance is of the city parks and what the expectations are. So right now, you know, we've been operating for 50 years, I think, to the very best of our ability in managing the parks all equally. We don't at all specify, and today we're working on city parks, tomorrow we're working on county parks. It's like, this is our work list, this is what needs to be done. We have people all over, and we get the work done. And I think we do a pretty good job with the small staff that we have for the amount of acreage that we have. But in the meantime, if we were to go do something in a city park, and the city council came back, or any members of you came back to me and said, why are you doing this? We don't want you to do that. There is really nothing that guides me of what I should or shouldn't be doing within the city parks, because that agreement was never done. So that is the agreement that the city's attorney's office, the county corporation's office, and my office have been working on to kind of memorialize all of those resolutions that were done in the last 50 years, and to pretty much lay out our services as we do them today, and the processes. So it's always been a process that I complete a city budget and I do a county budget. So I'm essentially doing the exact same thing that every city department head does and the county department head does. Any capital project comes to the city for you to decide and you to fund through your CIP process. Same with county, goes through that process. So really, the work that we do is dictated by our budget right now, and whether the city wants to fund certain things or not certain things. So this agreement will be coming through. What it really needs to go through is the entire process. So because the Park Commission is essentially that body that has been designated for this operations of the 2 systems, the agreement will go to the Park Commission at the first meeting in June. And then it will go from there. My process is to go through the city or the county's ERC, which is Environmental Resources Committee, that same day in June, because they meet the same day, and then through the county board following that. Then it will come through the city process, because it's an agreement that has to be agreed to by both the county and the city. And then it will go through the city process. And that's just the agreement. It doesn't talk anything about committees. It just talks about our services and what's expected of our department by the city, and memorializing the 50 years of resolutions.
Alder Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Boy, it's just, there's a lot to digest. I think that, you know, when I look at, you know, during my time here, and you know, I was on this committee for 8 years prior to this 5th term, you know, we have done a number of things. We've accomplished a lot of things for the city's park system. And to me, it is the city's park system. It's not, you know, part of the, you know, when I think of the county forest, you know, it's a whole nother, you know, kettle of wax compared to JoJo's Jungle, you know, that sort of thing. I mean, I'm concerned that, you know, what I read, you know, last month, and I came to speak about it at council, not realizing it had been taken off the agenda. So I went up there and said, "Oh, I hope you do," and it never was on there. It was struck, I guess, the day before when I was out of town. I'm concerned that we would have a body that doesn't have 5 people from the city serving as advocates, feet on the ground, people who live in the neighborhoods that we're talking about, neighborhood parks, you know, advocating for our neighbors, you know, and having to share those decisions, if you will, recommendations, with 3 people from the county with no vested interest in that. I find that counterintuitive to me and to my constituents. Be that as it may, I mean, we've always, you know, I haven't really looked at us as a hugely empowered committee. I view us as an advisory committee, really. We always have been. We have things we want to do, and we send it forward through the process. Now, the rest of this discussion about operational things is fine. I mean, that really doesn't even deal with us. It might deal more with finance, you know, type questions and budgetary concerns. But for us, we're talking about our neighborhood parks. And losing the element of advocacy that we've got and involvement. I mean, we've been involved in cleaning up toxic, you know, fields. We've been involved in creating incredible new amenities. You know, raised, you know, tens of thousands of dollars to fix the Stewart Park, you know, pillars which were crumbling. I don't know if that'd be a priority to somebody living in Athens. And, you know, how does that discussion get pushed forward, you know? And it just seems like it just doesn't fit to me. So, I mean, going forward, I know there's legal aspects. I know there's things that have been signed. There's things that have not been signed, whatever. There could be some confusion operationally. And, you know, and I feel bad about maybe adding more, you know, workload to the director coming to what might be a redundant meeting, you know. But I'm really reticent to lose our hand in this.
Yeah, and right now, just to be clear, Tom, this process that I have here has nothing to do with committees. So this intergovernmental agreement that comes through
Sure,
does not,
but I'm sorry,
does
but-
not talk to the committees. That's a further discussion once this agreement goes through and we have it realized what
Right.
it is that we're expected to do.
The document that came through, though, that I looked at last month, specifically mentioned doing away with this committee. I mean,
Yes,
it
there
was
were
there.
2 different actions last month. Those 2 different actions we brought through separately.
Yeah.
The first action that was on last month is this intergovernmental agreement.
Yeah.
That's what's being brought through individually first.
I don't know if anybody here in our committee feels overly concerned about an agreement on services. I think it's other things that I'm concerned about, as I've stated, so thank you.
I'm in full agreement with you, Alder Neal. Alder Rasmussen.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually, too, have been kind of trying to puzzle on this a little bit. This really, I became aware of this during COVID when we were grappling with facility closures as well, and trying to figure out what to either do or undo, to either, to find a way to come to some type of open local discussion about our facilities and in our neighborhoods, but yet try to defer the action component where it's actually been delegated. And so in thinking this through, these last couple weeks, I just last week sent an email to the city attorney and to Jamie, suggesting that perhaps as a committee, we should operate similar to the way we operate the airport committee, which allows for open local discussion. There is, we weigh in on the capital plan, we make recommendations to the standing committee system for, you know, what we believe should happen there, but that committee is a non-standing advisory committee. But yet, and it contains 7 members, 2 of whom are citizens, one's a hangar tenant. I mean, you really can get some good, like, perspective and discussion from the way that runs. And it really is just set, like, in between the finance committee, the council, and the actual airport management. I think that codifying what's expected of whom is the most basic of structure that we definitely need to have. Because often, I mean, years ago, I mean, I started on this committee in 2008 when we were arguing about aquatic centers and outdoor pools. And after that settled itself, then I stepped away from this committee and then moved to other things. But even back then, there were times where we would say, well, geez, we pay 50% of the budget, and I don't feel we're getting 50% of the service. It was never that easy, and it was never that type of equation, other than rolling stock. It was never a 50-50 type thing. And now I think, though, that in terms of service and facilities and updates and maintenance, I think that relationship actually has evolved and is thriving in ways that it was not back then. Partly because we had facilities that were really in a state of decay that needed massive capital investments on our part between pools and parks and play equipment. I mean, there was a lot of things that you just couldn't do anything with anymore. It was just there. And they were just hobbling stuff along. And now we're to the point where our stuff is upgraded, it's accessible, it's in good repair. I think keeping up with that is key. So I think having the agreement, whether we approve that here or approve it in finance and then take it to council, makes sense. But I think in parallel with that, we should work on what it takes to change ourselves from a standing committee to a non-standing advisory committee. Then we can have the same discussion we have in here every month, and then our 3 members in common will know what the results were of that discussion, and they can take that down the street to their commission meeting and then really weigh in with some firm guidance, without having to try to guess what the majority wanted. We still get the local input, but we're not trying to wrest control back away from the county, but we're also still not making those final decisions. But with 3 members in common, it would make sense that there'd be good communication, I think, between the two. If that could happen, I think that may solve the conundrum that we find ourselves in with wanting that local input piece, but then realizing that the way this contract is set up, has always been set up, our measure of control is limited.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Alder Neal.
I find merit in what has just been voiced by Alder Rasmussen. And bear in mind that, even if something that maybe the 3, council members brought to that body, something we wanted to move forward with, ended up not being supported by the commission, it could still go to council as a non-approved, proposal, where the council itself can then, look at it on its own merits too and act accordingly, particularly when it comes to money and stuff. So, I think I saw that's where we were going to be, having to go, needs be, because of all the history and all that. And I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that, we don't lose our ability to advocate.
And I'm just, as a matter of transparency for our citizens and their parks. I mean, this is the city parks. I mean, it's their parks, our parks, and we need to have a say, So any further discussion, Alder Watson?
I guess my concern too is just the timing of the Parks Commission. It's not as convenient as, say, our Park and Rec Committee, it's after work for people, so if they do want to come and talk. Is it recorded, the Parks Commission, and broadcasted on the YouTube channel?
It's recorded via WebEx. We always have a WebEx running even if nobody's on.
Okay.
But it eventually will end up, when we move off of River Drive, it'll eventually go to the courthouse where it will be recorded like this.
Okay.
Just right now it's not. And we haven't officially set the date yet. I'm still working on, I just got everybody's input back in from the new commission of those who gave me the input. So I'll be sending out an email on that and what might work, so.
Because I guess that's why I do like this forum, because it is a little easier to, access as a citizen and then view and be a part of it. So like you said, the transparency piece.
Alder Lukens.
I'm comfortable with, following the lead of the rest of you on this, as far as, if I trust your judgment as far as, whether we make this an advisory committee or keep it a standing committee. But I would say the same thing as far as that goes with standing committee with the time. I think, you know, I would have loved to have stayed, to have served on the park commission, but I could not, you know, at 10:30 in the morning, and that's a really difficult time for, I think, most people that work, if they're working during the day. And so I know that my district cares very much about parks, very much. And so, you know, I would like to be able, in that way too, for transparency, have it be, you know, available to the commission, that, you know, there is adequate representation, and that, you know, people can attend if they want to give comments. So that would be my concern. And I understand your having to do things double is, you know, hard. So, anyway, I guess those are my comments on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Lukens. Any further discussion on this item?
Yeah, so this is just an informational item for
Right.
right now as to the intergovernmental agreement. I'll work with our city attorney on, you know, ways we can bring that structure through. We'll figure out timing of whether we do it. I mean, this intergovernmental agreement, like I said, is a separate item, and that needs to go through the process. So our discussion on how this committee is structured could be done in conjunction with that. Before that, after that, I guess we can talk about the best timing on it and bring it back forward. with
Well,
some
thank you,
suggestions.
Jamie, and thank you all for commenting on this. I think you heard it loud and clear from this committee which way we'd like to go.
Well, there's a
so-
lot more information that also has to be presented, so this is a very, it's not a discussion item right now, it's just informational
Sure.
item. You know, one thing I put in here is I have asked to have a council of the whole meeting for the council and a county board presentation of just our department in general, because in talking even with our city attorney about all the different aspects of the agreement, there is a lot that we do on both sides for the city and the county that I think, as elected officials, you may not know. And I know the rest of the council doesn't know. I know the county board doesn't know. And that's a lot of, I mean, there's 38 people there and 11 of you to educate on this history, that I want to get that out there first before this agreement goes through, so that you understand how this agreement came to fruition. Because there's a lot more
Right.
than we just manage your parks. Like,
I've
there's
had-
way more to it than that.
I've had conversations with Attorney Ann Jacobson, so I know there's a lot of psychobabble behind this.
There's a lot of stuff.
So,
So if I can get those presentations scheduled before the agreements go through, then everybody knows what I'm talking about, would be great. I think I'm waiting for Chair Gibbs to let me know which May county board meeting it will be, and then I know the council president and the mayor are talking about possibilities there too, so
okay.
I think that's a good process.
Item 5B, park updates.
Yeah, so every month we just usually give some park updates of recent projects that we're doing. This is not everything, but this is kind of our bigger ones that we can think of at the moment. We've got some cross-connection issues. This is something that came about a couple of years ago, and why we did the huge Marathon Park water main project last year, is we found out we have a lot of cross-connection issues throughout the whole city proper, so that includes the county parks and the city parks within the city. That even included why we couldn't turn that kayak statue on early last year, is because we had the same issue, we had to replace it. So, working on those, we did some work at Airport Park for the parking lot, just take out that median so we can get some more parking in there. We also had an isolation valve in the street, well, it's in the sidewalk area by Athletic Park fail. We had one fail last year, and we had another one fail this year, so you might see some work being done there. Just getting everything ready for the season. Pools, same thing, we're getting those ready for the season. We'll begin filling them for our opening, I think it's June 1st, is opening of all the pools. Oak Island, you'll see the new restroom is up. It is open now, the window got put in, it is open. You'll see one door is our closet door that goes to the chase in the middle. Oh no, sorry, that door goes to the unisex bathroom, the family bathroom, that's in the front. It didn't have the right ADA latch on it, so we had to send it back. So the family restroom is not open right now, but the other two are.
I have a question on that building.
Yeah.
What would be its hours of operation?
Same as the park, so 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
And then general maintenance docks went in, all of them except for the ADA kayak at DC Everest Park are in. We have to figure out a different system for putting our docks in on this upper river side with the current and the little barge we have and the handmade pole post pounder. So that'll be our project over the summer, is to try to figure out a better system. It's just not a very safe or efficient system. It takes a lot of staff to put those in. All of our signs are up about the new ordinance change. We started mowing. We're fixing turf for snow removal. We got our ball fields up in full swing. We had a 140-team soccer tournament this last weekend that utilized the soccer complex as well as Airport Park. Other than the little bit of rain we had on Saturday and the storm that put about an hour and a half delay in games, we got all of them in. And they did a very good job of getting people off of those fields when the lightning struck. So I think the fields were, the whole complex, I know I was there because we were 8 minutes left in my son's game when it got called. And within 10 minutes, everybody was in their car taking shelter and everybody listened really well. So very good. And then yesterday was beautiful. And then we've done a lot of tree plantings. We had a community group that was part of the leadership chamber program do new landscaping and remulching at JoJo's Jungle, which really needed. And they put in some fun little walking pad, they're tree things, but they put in where the kids, typically run through the planting areas. We kind of saw those high traffic areas and put some stepping stones in there so that we can try to keep kids to the areas where they should go through and not all over the plants. But that's been a challenge, so that's kind of where we're at, so.
I just have one question. Jamie. Athletic Park, is that fixed up now for the girls softball?
Nope, we're still working on, so that isn't taking place. The turf won't go in until after this season.
Okay.
We're still working with the turf company to finalize those and get that before that's scheduled, but it'll be scheduled after August.
Okay. Alder Neal.
One question about the city forestry, our boulevard trees, and going forward. We've had a lot happen here in the last months with the denuding of a lot of the city. With the ash trees, I guess, being taken out. So, will this committee be actively involved in discussions about reforesting?
Well, they have been, yeah. There's an EAB plan, and we're sticking to that plan of how many we're taking down every year, how many we're treating, and how many we're planting,
So maybe our next meeting, we could have like an update on what's the planting. I guess there's some stump grinding that has to be done, and some replanting, and maybe some numbers along that way, and maybe some input from us on the types of trees that might be our option to replace. I know there's always been options varying between like the tiniest little twigs to fairly substantial little trees, and to what degree we might influence that. I think we'd like to be involved in that discussion.
Yep, and this committee has been involved, like I said, every year. We bring it back. John does the presentation. John's got a good plan, and we do have a planting standard. So we have a certain size tree or bigger that we put in. And John can give a whole update on where he's at. I think we have over 400 trees to plant this spring. And we do contract out. We did receive a grant to contract out some of the stump grinding so that they can stay ahead of us. Because we just don't have, we have 4 arborists and John and 2 horticulturists. So we also did get our approval, actually today, we got the email that our reimbursement from our disaster grant was approved. It was a little over $12,000 that we received from that big storm that went through kind of Reservoir Hill, I call it, and then all the way up. Substantial tree damage there a couple of years ago, and we got our reimbursement approved, so we'll get that funding back to put back into that urban forestry program, so, yeah.
Alder Lukens.
Just a comment that because in my neighborhood, one of the streets is being reconstructed, so we've had lots of conversations about the trees, and then with the ash trees too. John Kahan has presented at our neighborhood meeting recently, and I've talked to him quite a few times, and I'm really happy with with the, first of all, he's been wonderful to deal with, always. Like, I've dealt with him in the past several years, quite a number of times, and he's just been really, really wonderful. But I know that they're planting a whole diversity of trees, native trees, different trees, so that, you know, to avoid what's happening. So I do know that little tidbit of information, and, yeah, they have the whole plan, right? So, but it's been really, I talked to, when I had to have some maples down in my yard, they split in a storm, and I had an arborist look at it and some of the trees that he had recommended. Then I know John talked about some of the same ones, and so anyway, I've been really happy with that, so I'm grateful to all the work. Thanks.
Thank you, Alder Lukens. Any further discussion on the educational items? Then I guess we will take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
A motion by Alder Neal, second by Alder Lukens. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.